The drug company Pfizer has asked American regulators for emergency authorization for its vaccine, as the UK government says it hopes to roll it out to the public in the new year. Boris Johnson gives his full support to the Home Secretary Priti Patel, despite an inquiry upholding claims against her of bullying. The US state of Georgia has officially certified that Joe Biden won the presidential election in the state. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has invited Michigan state legislators to the White House in another attempt to overturn the result of the US election. The G20 summit of the world's biggest economies is being hosted online this weekend from the Saudi capital, Riyadh. But the event is in danger of being overshadowed by calls for the release of political prisoners.
Reporting that the Trump administration is planning to introduce new rules to lower drug prices. Rebates paid to middlemen would be cut, while the prices of certain prescription drugs would be pegged to prices in other developed countries, according to a person familiar with the planning. The rules are part of President Trump's signature plan to lower the cost of medicine. In a rare public split between the Treasury and the Fed, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin announced he's allowing several Federal Reserve emergency lending programs to expire, prompting the central bank to signal its disappointment. Some of the programs have helped businesses and governments to access low-cost credit during the pandemic. Mnuchin said the programs have achieved their objectives, while the Fed said it would prefer the emergency measures to continue. California Governor Gavin Newsom has issued a new stay-at-home order that will require businesses to close between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. This comes after the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention urged people not to travel this Thanksgiving as coronavirus cases continue to surge. The Georgia Secretary of State is expected to certify the state's election results later today after a hand recount. Joe Biden is the first Democrat presidential candidate to win the state since 1992, according to projected results by the Associated Press. The Trump campaign criticized Georgia's counting process and said the state shouldn't certify its results.
We begin here in Japan, where officials are looking at how to respond to the coronavirus now rapidly spreading through parts of the nation. Officials confirmed more than 2,400 infections on Friday, the highest daily tally ever. 5 prefectures, including Osaka, also broke records, prompting governors to raise the alarm. Many are pointing to the risk of eating out. Officials in the Western Prefecture are asking residents to eat in smaller groups or for shorter periods of time.
The number of infections is steadily rising, and that's putting a strain on the medical system. I think what's important right now is putting the brakes on this spread.
But the recent surge has so far not deterred the government from its go-to campaigns. They're meant to boost the economy by subsidizing travel and dining. The government met with experts on Friday to discuss its response.
The speed at which the virus is spreading is going up, and it is possible that pace will increase even further. We will do our utmost to take appropriate measures to contain it.
At the meeting, experts suggested the government should take measures such as excluding areas from campaigns where infections are rapidly increasing. They added these measures should be in place for about 3 weeks. Now, after the session, Nishimura said the government will hold a task force meeting on Saturday and make decisions as quickly as possible. And that's left residents wondering how to spend an upcoming 3-day weekend safely.
I'm a bit scared about the virus, so I just plan to go bike riding and look at autumn leaves in the neighborhood. I'll take pictures and spend time in well-ventilated places.
I was making plans, including taking a bus to Karuizawa, but I decided not to go.
Over 129,000 total cases have been confirmed across Japan, with about 300 patients now in serious condition. More than 1,900 people have died. The World Health Organization says it does not recommend administering the antiviral drug remdesivir to hospitalized coronavirus patients. The drug has reportedly been approved or authorized for temporary use in about 50 countries. The WHO made the recommendation on Friday as part of its guideline on clinical care for COVID-19. The health body analyzed results from clinical trials on patients hospitalized around the world. The report says evidence suggests the drug has no important effect on mortality, need for mechanical ventilation, or time to clinical improvement. The drug's maker, Gilead Sciences, says in a statement, there's robust evidence the drug helps coronavirus patients. It says it's disappointed with the new WHO guideline. The United States initially authorized the emergency use of the drug in May. Japan also issued special approval. According to Japan's chief cabinet secretary, the health ministry sees no need to review the approval for the time being. A Japanese doctor specializing in respiratory medicine says he's used the drug on about 40 patients with severe symptoms.
I believe the drug helps patients leave ventilators and improves patient survival rates.
He adds his hospital will continue to use remdesivir until another specific treatment is available. Now, health officials in the United States are making their own plea as the nation reports record-breaking numbers. Johns Hopkins University says Thursday's tally for new infections topped 185,000, and 250,000 people have died. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is urging people to wear masks, keep a social distance, and stay home for Thanksgiving. Every year, people meet up with family and friends to express their gratitude over a roast turkey feast. Now, many aren't so sure.
I think that traveling during this time is definitely difficult. I'm a college student, so I don't really have much of a choice, but I think that any unnecessary travel should be avoided.
I'm going to see my family in Chicago, and I'm so excited to go. I'm not sweating it and just following the rules.
CDC officials say the trips and the meals could spread the virus. Airports say it's hard to know how many people will take a flight, but they're trying to ensure all travelers are safe.
This year, we know that the airlines have sold half of the amount of seats they sold last year. And those people who are showing up to the airport, we don't know if they're going to make their flight, so we don't know what the prediction will be.
Some families say the tradition is just too important. Ohio State University asked people across the nation if they plan to have a meal with at least 10 people. Nearly 2 in 5 said yes. If you're one of them, CDC has some final advice. Consider eating outside. Leaders of 21 Asia-Pacific countries and territories are meeting online to discuss their response to the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on their economies. Malaysia is chairing the summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, meetings.
Today, as we work together as the region to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, the relevance of APEC has become even more pronounced.
Malaysia says the pandemic has caused the APEC bloc to post its first negative growth in 30 years in the first half of 2020. Unemployment is also rising. The leaders plan to adopt a summit declaration after discussing ways to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on the region's economies and people's health. Japan, the United States, and China are among the participants. U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping joined the online summit. APEC leaders failed to adopt joint statements in both 2018 and 2019. Now, leaders at the East Asia Summit have shown a new level of concern over movements in the South China Sea, where China has increased its maritime presence. The virtual meeting last week of 18 countries included those of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Japan, the United States, and China. Vietnam served as chair. And the chairman's statement was released on Friday. It referred to the situation in the South China Sea without criticizing China by name. It said serious concerns were raised by some leaders on the developments, including land reclamations, activities, and serious incidents in the area. The wording was in contrast to past statements that said the leaders took note of some concerns about the matter. Observers say this may reflect the intentions of Vietnam, which has territorial disputes with China. The statement also said the leaders emphasized the importance of the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. It's a concept about ASEAN's role in the region that stresses the organization's openness, transparency, and respect for international law. Beijing earlier asked that reference to the Indo-Pacific be deleted from the document, saying the wording indicated the U.S. stance on China, but the term was kept in the statement. Japan's space agency has announced 2 more Japanese astronauts are scheduled for long-term stays aboard the International Space Station. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency said on Friday Wakata Koichi will stay on the ISS sometime around 2022 and Furukawa Satoshi around 2023. Wakata has spent the greatest number of days in space among Japanese astronauts.
We will do our utmost to make our mission on the ISS a valuable experience for future lunar expeditions.
Furukawa, who's a medical doctor, conducted experiments on himself in space in 2011 to determine the impact of space on the human body.
I want to contribute to future manned space exploration by taking advantage of my background as a doctor in an international crew team.
Now, 4 astronauts, including Japanese Noguchi Soichi, are now staying aboard the ISS after their spacecraft successfully docked with the ISS earlier this week. Crew Dragon is the world's first privately developed space vessel to reach the operational stage. Next, a major car show has started up in southern China as the world's biggest auto market clicks into gear again after it was hit hard by COVID-19. Car companies from across the globe are showcasing about 1,000 vehicles at the Guangzhou Motor Show. Japan's Nissan Motor is touting an electric SUV that'll be on the road next year. It can travel as far as 610 kilometers on a single charge. A Chinese firm showcased a system that can replace electric vehicle batteries in just 20 seconds.
Taxi drivers in China don't want to waste time waiting for batteries to charge. We believe vehicles with replaceable batteries will be a big part of future markets.
Toyota unveiled a new gasoline-powered sedan. Appetite for such vehicles remains strong even as Beijing pushes an electric future for transport. Chinese demand for cars has been on the road to recovery since April. The government is planning more steps to rev up sales. Moving now to Nepal, where a judo hall has opened at a school halfway up Mount Everest with support from a Japanese non-profit organization. A helicopter and trucks arrived at Kumjun village last week to deliver 50 tatami mats and 50 sets of judo wear. The village is located at an altitude of over 3,700 meters. The final stretch of road leading to the school was too narrow for vehicles to pass. So students carried the mats weighing more than 10 kilograms, some on their heads. A former computer classroom was turned into the judo hall. Once the mats were laid, children began practicing their moves. The nonprofit says it aims to promote international exchange through judo by sending coaches from Japan and inviting students from Nepal.